Redditors who got in trouble in a foreign country, what happened? Rented a scooter in Cambodia, got pulled for having the headlight on before 6 p.m. I got taken into a room and was told why I was there. They then asked for my international driving license, which you don't casually need for a scooter. I lied and told him I lost it in Australia. He started shaking his head and telling me this wasn't good, first the headlight issue and now no license. This is when he asked if I wanted to do things the easy way or hard way. I said easy and he gave me a little speech about lights in Cambodia and then proceeded to ask me how much I thought the info about light in Cambodia was worth. I paid him $10 and went on my way. When I landed in Nepal, this German guy accused me of plotting to kill him while on the airplane. I was sitting a few rows behind him reading from a tablet. He told the police I had a laser pointer and insisted I was an assassin. He was hysterical. I was scared shitless in this new country and was put in a room while the police searched my bags for a laser pointer. A ducking laser pointer. I had none. The guy turned out to be very mentally unstable and was sent away. The airport police chief gave me his own phone number and told me to call him if I needed tourist recommendations. On our school trip to Germany, our teacher made us sign letters saying we wouldn't drink as we were all below 21 but above Germany's legal drinking age of 16. So of course, immediately when we got there my friends and I started sneaking off to bars after we were done sightseeing. We started off small, like one beer each at a bar very far from our hotel. We probably would have been fine if we stopped there, but we kept upping the ante. Eventually we ended up with bottles of absinthe and Jägermeister in our hotel, along with a bunch of kids we met from Texas who were even crazier than we were. Naturally we got caught and had to make the very awkward "Hey, I'm a terrible son" calls to our parents. Looking back though, it's a hard thing to regret. I was traveling across Kazakhstan for work. One thing I failed to notice on my visa landing card was that after X number of days in country, I had to go check in with immigration. Whoops. So when I went to leave the country, the passport control official noted that there was no appropriate stamp, pointed this out to me, and eyeballed me like his life depended on it. While I was being coldly stared at, I was shitting bricks, and I thought, oh duck, I'm going to spend a few nights in the cells before being fined and deported. Thankfully he said, in future, when you visit our country, you must comply with the law and let me go. I apologized profusely and got on my flight out. I haven't been back, but certainly wouldn't rule it out. Just don't go during winter. Kazakhstan is pretty damn cold in November. I was visiting Montenegro a few years ago with my girlfriend, at the time, and another couple. We stayed in this awesome villa in the mountains, our own private pool/garden and not another soul for miles. It was bliss, and we had the best vacation I had ever had. We were flying home from Dubrovnik in Croatia, however the journey was only a short taxi ride from Montenegro over the border. Our taxi driver wasn't an official licensed cab, but the brother-in-law of the guy we rented the villa from. It was slightly dodgy, but he offered to do the trip for about €50 less than the other cab company, so we agreed. We had met him a couple of times during our holiday and whilst he spoke virtually no English, he seemed fine. The other couple were flying home from another airport, so it was just me and my girlfriend in his cab. It's about a 45-minute journey, basically in silence, just looking at the breathtaking scenery out of the window. When he gets in the airport and we're taking our luggage out of the trunk, he indicates to me, in very broken English, that his wallet is missing. I was sat in the front seat next to him, so he obviously thought I had taken it from the dashboard or something. I explained to him that I hadn't stolen his wallet, had actually just paid him €20 more than he asked for as a tip, and even helped him search his car for his wallet for a good 10 minutes. Eventually I got tired and said, look, sorry you lost your wallet, but we have a flight to catch. Good luck. As we walked off, he started getting angrier and angrier, and actually followed us into the airport terminal. He grabbed a Croatian police officer who was just standing around, and started talking to him in their local dialect, so we had no idea what they were saying. The police officer pulls me into a room with my luggage and asks me to open my case. I do as he says. He takes a very quick peek and says, okay, you're free to go. I was like, there's about 4 other compartments you haven't looked in. I can unzip them if you want to look properly. He just smiled and said, no, I know you're not a thief. That guy is an idiot, don't worry. Have a safe flight. We thought that was the end of the matter, so we check in and we're waiting in the departure gate. The same police officer comes over to us and says, sorry, I wanted to let you go, but the guy has made an official complaint, so I need to bring you in. Sorry, it's gone above my head now. Now, I'm slightly panicking because I don't know if this is some sort of scam and we're going to be asked for some ludicrous amount of money to make this problem go away. After what felt like an eternity, probably about an hour, in real time, he brings me and my girlfriend in to see his boss. My preconceptions about being scammed were totally unfounded. They couldn't have been nicer. They spoke good English and handled the whole thing very professionally. They did a more thorough search of our bags, cracked a couple of jokes and then escorted us to our flight home, which we made with about 4 minutes to spare. With the ordeal finally over, just as we were stepping onto the plane, the original police officer called my name with a serious-sounding tone. I turned around thinking, Christ, what now? And he just looked at me and said, "You have Facebook?" He never added me as a friend, sadly, but I'll forever be grateful that we didn't get thrown into a Croatian prison for no reason at all. Edit: if anyone is interested, when we got home I fired off a pretty terse email to the dude we rented the villa from complaining that his brother-in-law caused us a lot of unnecessary grief at the airport. He responded very apologetically to say that the guy had later found his wallet on his own driveway. He must have dropped it at home before picking us up that morning. I can look back and laugh about it now, but given that my girlfriend at the time had a chronic fear of flying, traveling with her was always an anxiety-inducing experience, so spending over an hour in police custody and almost missing our flight home was not a fun way to end our trip. Back in 2010, when I was 18, me and 4 of my friends went on our first all-inclusive vacation to Cancun. We stayed at Oasis Cancun, which at the time was one of the known spring break/party hotels. We met a local dude who we befriended, and he hooked us up with a drug dealer, and we scored an ounce of pot for a ridiculously good price. We went back to our room and immediately started smoking joint after joint. After about 30 minutes, there's a knock on the door. We open it and 3 of the hotel's security guards barge in. The first thing they see is all of that pot sitting on the table in plain sight. I was nearly shitting my pants. One of my friends told them we got it from a taxi driver and he said it was legal in Mexico. Quick thinking but still ducking retarded. The security guards took half the weed and left. That was the end of it. We're honestly extremely lucky. They didn't extort us, besides taking like $40 worth of pot, or call the cops. Some other friends who were there at the same time also got caught smoking pot in their room and each had to give the security guard $200 for him to let them off, so we are very lucky. I went to Jamaica over Christmas with my family and another family. The 2 daughters, 21 and 18, from the other family were looking to have fun in Jamaica and there wasn't much fun to be had at the resort. I asked around for what to do outside the resort and they said go to Margaritaville tonight, it's ladies' night. I say sure, it's a Margaritaville, how sketchy could it be? It was so sketchy we decided to leave 15 minutes after we got there. The girls were getting grabbed. It was a very local scene for a Margaritaville, and the shuttle to the resort wouldn't take us back as it wasn't leaving until later. So I decided to get a cab. The guy at the resort told me the 3 steps to do when getting a cab and the guy passed all 3 steps, but he seemed super sketchy, like to check if they had a cab license, a certain license plate, etc. We are driving back to the resort and I realize we passed the resort. "Sir, I think you skipped our resort. I know I'm taking you to have fun tonight." The dude ends up driving us 30 minutes away to a Jamaican whorehouse. It's me, my brother and 2 females. I've asked him for the past 30 minutes to politely take us back to the resort, however he insisted on taking us here. I tell him I'm not going to go inside and get scammed. Can you please take us back to the resort? I will give you an extra $30 if we forget this ordeal. He makes me go inside with the girls and the prostitutes approached me. He asked me, do you still want to leave, and I said yes. I legitimately don't know what kind of situation I stumbled into, but I thought the 4 of us weren't making it out safe. Eventually, after not giving in to temptation, the cab driver eventually took us back to the resort when I bribed him with even more money. I reported the whole thing to the resort and got his license plate number and everything, but Jesus Christ, it just wasn't a fun situation. Just to clarify, this was in Montego Bay and I had 0 cell phone service. Phone just wouldn't connect even though I bought the plan for it to work. I know it's not the most glamorous story, but it is the time I got in trouble in another country. Ended up having to give the cab driver $100 at the whorehouse to drive us back to the resort and $100 when we got there. He told me it would be $40 at the Margaritaville. Not me, but someone we were traveling with. Our school based in Australia had a high school trip across Europe as part of a history/art tour. The jock of the group bought his father some unique gifts, one of which included a replica flintlock pistol. We all told him that this idea was completely and utterly stupid, but gosh damn he wanted it and buying it for his father's birthday was his perfect excuse. He seemed to get away with it through the airport, and eventually we boarded our plane back to Australia, departing from Rome. Eventually we are waiting for an extended period of time after some announcements I didn't pay attention to, and I look out the window as I see a few members of the police, a customs representative, a baggage handler, and the guy from our group. They literally unpacked his bag on the apron just because of his stupid cemented pistol. To this day I don't know how it came to be confiscated at the last possible second, but I'll never forget him standing there looking like an idiot in front of a whole 747 of delayed passengers. Not me, but one of my friends was drunk driving, got into a car crash and accidentally slammed through the fence and ended up invading the embassy of Trinidad and Tobago. He lives in our country's capital. He was somewhat arrested but was let go and is just basically awaiting a court date. Somewhat arrested sounds like a phrase a teenager would use with his parents to try to downplay the trouble he got into. I mean, the situation was pretty curious for everyone involved, including the cops. They basically took him in for the night then let him go. I got pulled over. A cop stood in grass and waved his arms at me, in Negril, Jamaica, for speeding. The limit was 20 km/h because we were driving through the resorts area and I was doing about 40 kilometers, everyone else was doing about 60. The officer walked up to me with his button up halfway undone with his chest hairs exposed, lol, and let me off with a warning. The entire time my girlfriend was yelling at me to drive away because she thought we were going to get shaken down. 2 weeks into a 7-month backpacking trip around South America, my girlfriend got a severe ear infection when we were in Puerto Madryn in Argentina. The pain was so bad she could barely stand and said it felt like her head was about to explode. Obviously I knew I needed to get a doctor involved ASAP in case her eardrum ruptured, but I'd only been learning Spanish for 2 weeks at this point. I could about handle formal greetings, but hadn't yet covered medical emergencies. I sprinted from clinic to clinic, and using the Google Translate app eventually was able to find one that would take her in. After basically carrying her there, the doctor and I basically communicated using Google Translate, passing my phone back and forward as he asked questions and I answered them. It was weird at first but it worked well. The doctor was pretty cool about it, especially considering he was about to leave for the day when we rocked up. He gave her a strong painkiller and a prescription for antibiotics and sent us on our way. My girlfriend was high as a kite and went straight to sleep. I went into the kitchen and drank a bottle of wine. I went once to Russia from Nice, France, by train with my then girlfriend. Obviously, there were frontier controls at Belarus, so we showed our passports with our transit visas. Funny enough, we didn't need visas for Russia, but we did need them for Belarus. As none of the guards spoke any language other than Russian, they just gestured that everything was okay, and that was that. We spent 2 weeks and a half in Moscow and St. Petersburg, using Airbnb. It was pretty good and I genuinely enjoyed the trip. Then, when we were going back to France, by train again, we stopped again at Belarus for exit control, and it was like 2 a.m. We were in a 4-people cabin, and with us was a Russian lady and her daughter. She was very kind and we sorta chatted a bit, and then we realized that she had an awful experience with our country. Won't give many details here. The thing is, when the guards saw our passports, asked for something in Russian again. The lady translated our check-in documents or something like that. It turns out that, when you're a foreigner in Russia, you have this sheet of paper that you should give to your hotel to be filled and then hand it back when exiting the country. Nobody told us that, and we were puzzled. The guards say we're going to take your passports. I am going to talk with my superior. Then, we spent a tense hour. The lady called her husband, who, as it turned out, worked with some Russian ministry and had something to do with migrations. She then grimly explained that the guards could detain us and send us back to Moscow in the middle of the night for not having the required documents. In that moment, we were livid. We had a flight to catch in France in 4 days or so, and the trip by train takes 2 days. We didn't have much money for a last-minute flight and the prospect of being detained in Belarus wasn't a pretty one. Later I discovered that Belarus is called the last European dictatorship, so, there's that. I was already worried. My ex was very chill until I kinda explained the situation for her, and then she started to worry as well. The guard came finally and handled our passports back. The lady asked what happened? Is everything okay? And the guy said, well, my supervisor and I had a great day today, we're in a cheerful mood, so, we won't bother you. You're free to exit the country, have a nice night. We were relieved. Months later, I found a colleague from Belarus who explained to me, well, next time you slip a €20 note in your passports, and problem solved. The more you know. TLDR, coming back from Russia, we were detained in Belarus and almost forced to go back to Moscow for not having a document nobody told us we required. I was a research assistant in an ecology lab when I was 20. My lab group was flying from Seattle to our research site in the remote Canadian Arctic, with a stop in Edmonton to change planes. I'd driven across the Canadian border multiple times and just used my driver's license as ID. It never occurred to me that I'd need a passport when flying in. The immigration agent gave me this incredulous look and I could feel the shame rising to smother me. He just stared me down for several seconds, then hands my driver's license back and says, "You do realize Canada is an independent country, right?" And let me continue. He seemed so defeated by my thoughtless American arrogance. On the way home, a grad student volunteered at American Customs Inspection that she'd collected samples of an Arctic poppy species that wasn't on her import permit. Like they would ever have known otherwise. She had to leave her samples behind. The 90s were a more innocent time. Thanks for listening to another episode of Redditors. Subscribe and activate the notification bell so you won't miss any stories. Feel free to share your own stories below in the comments. Have a good day.